Hey there, it's Wednesday night, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. And here we are, and it is time for Food Addiction Fair and Firm. I am Dr. Connie Stapleton, and I am excited to be here tonight. Hi, Susan Ann. It's good to see you again. Yeehaw! Hi, Ingrid. Hi, Don, and Julie, and Bonnie, and oh my goodness, yay. I just feel joy when I see my friends because you know what, it's a security, it's a blessing, um it's it's comfort. You guys are comfort to me. You add to my life, and I want to thank you for that. And it's also exciting for me to see people who want to continue to um, grow grow in themselves and work to become your best self. So here we are all together. I know a song about that I learned in church one time, but I won't sing it for you tonight. Hi, Crystal. Maybe I will. Who knows? If it won't go out of my head, I might just have to sing it. Okay, so what we're going to talk about tonight is food addiction. Of course, I am very fair, but I am way firm, and I'm going to be uber duper firm tonight. We are talking about self-esteem. And we're talking about self-esteem in the present because we only live in the present, right? But I'm also going to talk about the origins of self-esteem and how self-esteem is totally related to addictions. I've talked about that some in past episodes of Food Addiction Fair and Firm, and I'm going to talk about it again tonight because in my mind and in all of my education and all of my learning, both personal learning and professional learning, I have learned that addiction has at the root a self-esteem component. And it's not an overly good self-esteem component, right? It's a self-esteem component that says, I don't like me, I don't think I'm good enough. There are aspects of me that I just don't want to face. I don't think other people, find me worthy, which doesn't matter as much as the fact that I don't deem myself worthy. So I hear people say things all the time like, I hate myself, or I loathe myself, or I'm disgusting, and I just want to cringe. And I'm sure that there have been times in my own life when I've said those exact same words, and I'm sad for that. And I'm sad for the many years, and I do mean years, that my self-esteem was beyond in the toilet. And I am beyond grateful that I have learned about humility and the absolute importance of having some self-esteem and having positive self-esteem and basing your self-esteem on self. So I'm going to talk about that tonight. And if you are an addict of any sort, a food addict or any other sort of addict, you have a self-esteem problem. And I don't have any qualms about saying that definitively because I don't know anyone with any kind of addiction issue who does not have a self-esteem problem. Now, that being said, there are a lot of people who people think are really self-confident, right? They're like, oh, if I could have that much self-confidence. And sometimes that self-confidence is nothing more than a cover for a lack of self-esteem. Anybody who's like a braggart or a show-off or knows everything about everything most likely has really low self-esteem. Remember that in most kinds of issues in life, whether it be self-esteem or boundaries or most things are on a continuum, right? On one end of the continuum with self-esteem anyway, we got people who say things like, hi, Sean. Hey, Carol. Like, I suck. I'm the worst. I'm an idiot. I can't stand myself. All those things, right? No question, self-esteem issue right there. On the other side of the continuum, we've got people who are like, I'm all that in a bag of chips. Usually people who are on that end of the continuum are like, you want to be me. I know you want to be me. You just want to be me for sure. You want to be me. They usually suffer from self-esteem. It just looks different, right? Where you want to be is somewhere in the middle going, you know what? I really, really like this about myself. These are some things I'm pretty dang good at. These are some things I'm still trying to work on. So a balance, right? I learned one time that humility, and I love this, humility is knowing what we're good at and knowing what we're not good at and being okay with both, right? And being able to say, this is something I'm pretty darn good at, and this is something I'm not so great at. So that's humility. And a person with decent self esteem has some humility. They are able to say some things that they're pretty good at, and they're able to recognize things that they need to work on. So when we think about self esteem, it's never an across the board issue. It's not like you're going to have high self esteem in every single area of your life. You may be very competent and have pretty good self esteem when it comes to your job. Maybe it's something you've done for 30 years and you know you are good at your job. So your self esteem in that area is pretty good. Whereas in another area, it might not be so good. For example, I'm always nervous and anxious if my family wants to play Trivial Pursuit because I don't have that ability. I don't have that skill. I don't have that knowledge. I was missing out in all of school. And I didn't acquire little tidbits of facts. And I have this issue with not feeling very smart. So when we play self-esteem, when we play Trivial Pursuit, I have pretty low self-esteem in that area. And I get nervous and anxious, and it's an area where I feel incompetent. So my self-esteem there is not so great. So your self-esteem is not an across-the-board issue. And so there are some areas of my life I want to continue to improve my self-esteem. For example, with the Trivial Pursuit thing, I'm not ever going to, because I'm not going to put the effort into it. Not that I couldn't, possibly. I don't know if I could or not. But I'm not going to put the effort into learning a bunch of trivia so that when we play Trivial Pursuit, I don't feel so stupid. It's not that important to me. So what I could do to improve my self-esteem in that area is when I find myself feeling, oh God, I should have known that. Oh my God, I'm not that smart or whatever. Not to do that, but instead to say, you know what, this is not my area of expertise. I'm going to enjoy the game. I'm going to have some fun. Hopefully I'll learn a few things, but don't count on me to fill our pie. Right? Instead of feeling that shame and that embarrassment, I'm not good enough to play. You don't want me on your team, kind of thing. So self-esteem, here's the good news. Here's the really great news. It can be improved. It can be improved all the time, our whole life. We can improve our self-esteem. So if you're like, I ain't got no self-esteem, good news, you can develop it. The maybe not so good news, depending on where you're coming from, is that you're the only one that can do this. You are the only person who can improve your self-esteem. Nobody else can do this for you. And that kind of sucks because sometimes we want somebody else to do it for us. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't contribute to one another's positive feelings about self. For example, if I give you a genuine, sincere compliment, it might help you feel good about yourself, right? But if you've got a hole in the bottom of the bucket, dear Liza, and that compliment falls right out the bottom, it's not going to do you any good. So if there's a hole in your bucket, you got to fill that hole. Because then when I give you a sincere compliment, it'll stick. But if there's a hole in that bucket because you don't believe you are worth that compliment, you don't buy it, you're not going to accept it no matter what, it's going to fall right through the bottom of that hole. So our job is to patch up the holes in our buckets of self-esteem so stuff other people are putting in there doesn't fall all the way out the bottom. And so that we can hold our own good stuff in there so that bucket fills up. So where does self-esteem come from? self-esteem, do you think that it, do you think it's just born in some people and not in other people? Or do you think we develop it over time? Or do you think, I mean, there are all kinds of theories about this. I'm just going to give you mine, okay? I believe by looking at babies that we come into the world with the capability, with the ability to have positive self-esteem, right? I believe that, we're open for thinking we're pretty okay. Because when you look at a baby, and if you look at a baby's eyes and they look right at you, I get the feeling that they're thinking, dang, I'm pretty awesome. And boy, so are you. Look at you. You're a big person and you're smiling and wow, you're cool. And look at me. I'm pretty cool too. Because that baby has no reason to not think they're okay. So they look you right in the eye, right? A person with real good self-esteem doesn't always look you right in the eye because they don't feel very good about themselves. So I believe, and there are studies on this, and one of the ones I like to quote a lot, and I don't know actually who did the study, I just know who I heard it from, and of course it's my buddy Andy Stanley, who quotes some research that children or people need, now check it out the wording here, heavy doses over a long period of time. Heavy doses over a long period of time of things like acceptance, encouragement, affirmation, security, time, validation, limits, boundaries, all these good things that healthy parents are supposed to do, right? Heavy doses over long periods of time. And yet, when I talk to most people, I hear about childhoods, and this isn't everybody, but you got to remember, I work in the mental health field. But my own self and most of the people I went to school with, in their homes, they heard a lot of criticism. A lot of times there were so many kids that nobody got a whole lot of consistent doses over heavy periods of time of encouragement and enthusiasm and, time spent with you. And, so people outside of ourselves kind of mirror and reflect what we end up perceiving about ourselves. Now, here's the thing. Sometimes children can misperceive, right? So maybe there's a parent who's very busy working many jobs, a single parent, so that they can feed and clothe the kids. Now, the parent knows that's a necessity, but the kid may interpret that as, I'm not important. My mommy's never home. My mommy never comes to my games, whatever. So I think it's a mixture of the messages we get externally, not just from parents, but from primary caretakers. So it might be a nanny, it might be a grandparent. It's also coaches and teachers and peer groups, right? The messages we get in our younger years about ourselves become the messages, here's the important part, become the messages we start to give ourselves. This is the reason why only you can change your self-esteem. Now, I said we were going to talk about self-esteem today, in the present, because no matter where it came from, whether you had a lot of positive influences, a lot of positive reflection about yourself, some of both, or whether you had, for whatever reason, an interpretation, if you are today at the place in your life where you think, I'm not good enough, where your main message is to and about yourself, I don't care if you're 20, 40, 60, 80, 13, I don't care. What do you say about yourself today? Because no matter where it came from originally, and I could spend a long time on that because I believe it's really important, but regardless of where it stemmed from, what you can do today is 100% up to you. And you can do that, and it's up to you because you're the one who gives yourself most of the reinforcement, whether it's positive or negative at this point in time. So what do you say to yourself about yourself today at this time in your life? About your intelligence, about your ability to have relationships, about your body image, about your self-worth. Now, let me talk real briefly about that overlap between body image and overall self-image. Because self-image is how we think about ourselves, how we treat ourselves, how we view ourselves in relation to other people, and the messages we give ourselves, right? Self-image. Now, it may be influenced by external, but it's self-image. Because a person who has pretty good self-esteem, if someone gives them a criticism today in their adult life, a really, really healthy person might say, that's interesting feedback. I'm going to have to process that and see how it fits in my life. And if there's some truth to it, I'm going to see how I might want to change that in my life. A super low self-esteem person is going to have tremendous amounts of defensiveness, right? Who do they think they are saying that? Why would they say that to me? Well, they're just jealous. Well, they just this and they just that. A whole bunch of defensiveness about feedback is a real good sign of low self-esteem. Just an FYI, right? Because a healthy person, a person with healthy self-esteem, doesn't dismiss without consideration feedback given to them. So that's just one little sign. Here's the way to change your self-esteem today, regardless of if your family continues to criticize you, regardless if people dismiss what you have to say, regardless if people, whatever. Here's how I improve my self-esteem. I change the way I talk to myself. And I do it consistently. Remember at the beginning I said the research says you need heavy doses over long periods of time of this good stuff, right? Affirmation, encouragement, support, enthusiasm, guidelines. If you didn't get that, then start giving it to yourself. Part of the process of being a healthy adult is parenting yourself. If you had crappy parents or good parents but that did some crappy things, or if you had good parents but a whole lot of crappy people outside of your world, you need to reparent yourself. And what I mean by that is giving yourself heavy doses over long periods of time of positive reinforcement. There came a day in my life, a literal day in my life, this actually took place, where I said, I refuse. Love this word. I refuse to talk badly to myself about myself. I refuse. Will not, ain't gonna do it, won't allow it. Now, did that mean it stopped immediately? Of course not. Because if you've got a habit of doing this, you're doing it 1,000 times more than you're even aware, right? So every time I became aware on my own accord, or I asked people in my circle to help me, let me know when you hear me say something negative about myself. Let me know when you hear me talk badly to myself about myself or to others about myself. Because only with awareness can I change what I'm doing. And this takes forever, right? But anyway, anytime now when I go, oh my God, I'm such an idiot, or I can't believe I did that. What a fool. How stupid. The minute I become aware that I might do something like that, I say, I refuse to talk to myself like that. And I change it. I say, you know what? I know that I can do better in a situation like that because I've done better in a situation like that. Let me say this over. I'm not stupid. That wasn't my best judgment. What I would like to have said to you is, or if I, say something nasty to my husband or something. So it's not just about saying things to myself, but immediately I go and I say, I'm sorry, that's not who I want to be. So whether it's in relation to somebody else or to myself, is that who I want to be? Is that how I want to talk to myself? Reparenting myself means giving myself encouragement. It means saying, you know what, this isn't the easiest thing for me to do, but it's something I really want to do, so I'm going to put effort into it. This isn't where I'm most comfortable, but I have to be there because it's important to my career, it's important to my spouse, or it's important to my children, or whatever. And therefore, I'm going to put effort into reminding myself that I am just as capable, lovable, worthy as every other person in this room. My self-esteem suffers, or it attempts to try to suffer. In other words, those old messages come back to me when I go to professional conferences, because I'm like, oh my God, these people know so much. They can recite research. They can recite names. They can recite dates this research happened. They can say where it was cited. I don't know any of that stuff. It's kind of like the Trivial Pursuit thing, right? That's not my thing. So I'm going to get that automatic negative crap that goes, what are you doing here? You're not as smart as these people. You're not. I have to shut that down. But wait a minute, I recognize this old crap. I refuse to do that to myself. I went to school just as long as these people did. I may not be as well versed in that area, but I do know what I do know. So I'll talk about the things that I do know. People might not agree with me. It doesn't mean I'm wrong. They might point out some things to me that I need to be open-minded about, that I can learn more about. But I am good enough. I am just as good a human being as every other person in this room. And that's one of the things to remember. We are all good enough. Brene Brown talks a lot about self-esteem and shame. And I would really recommend everybody listen to everything they can by Brene Brown, because she puts it in terms that are easy to understand. But the bottom line, she says, is, do you believe you're good enough? Are you good enough? I'm good enough. And I know you're good enough, but do you think you're good enough? Do you think you're good enough if you get on that scale and it says what you don't want? Or do you go, I'm a piece of crap. My day is ruined, and now I'm going to go ruin the lives of other people by being snappy and crabby and pissy and moaning? Because that scale, because of a number on that screen, just reminded me that I'm not a good enough person. That's the kind of crap that you got to stop. You got to change. Only you can do it. Only you can do it. And you got to do it by recognizing when you're doing it. Now, this body image, there's some research that says body image is 2/3 of our overall self-esteem. Anybody I know with a food addiction, anybody I know who suffers with, body image, which is about every person I know, male and female, suffer to some degree from body image. Now, here's a little test for you. Here's a little thinking thing for you. God, this time goes so fast. We've got 5 minutes left. Okay, here's something that I want you to think about. Think about the people you love most in your life, okay? Think to yourself, I love this person and this person and this person and this person, up to 5 people. And then I want you to think, I love this person for these reasons, 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 and this person for these reasons. And the people that you love and the reasons that you love them, I'm going to bet have 0 to do with what size they wear, 0 to do with what number is on that scale, 0 to do with their body. I'm going to guess that the reasons you love the people that you thought of that you loved, and the reasons that you thought of that you love these people that you love, have everything to do with your relationship with them, their behavior toward you and or other people, their interactions with you and or other people. You love the people you love because of their character traits, because of who they are, because of their personality, because of your relationship with them, not because what size they wear, not because what the number says on the scale. And yet, you do not afford yourself that same reality, right? You do not afford yourself the belief that people love you for your personality traits, for your heart, for your soul, right, Dawn? Right? You judge yourself so dang harshly, right? God made us all in his image. That includes me. It makes me very special. Absolutely. And you believe that about every other person you love, it's also true for you. And you got to believe that it's true for you. And you got to remind yourself that it's true for you. And not everybody is going to like us. Think about the people for a minute you don't like, okay? Think about the people you don't like and the reasons you don't like them. My guess is it's your perception or our perception of their behavior and what that says about them. So the people who don't like us see things about us that they don't like, that they don't like. Other people might like that about us. This person doesn't. Do you like it about you? Do you like it about you? I love that I'm pretty straightforward. I love that I'm pretty bottom line. I know that over time I've had to work on my delivery of my bottom line. Here it is. But I know a lot of people who don't like that about me. I can't let their opinion of me determine my opinion of me. I know people who think I'm too this or too that or too whatever. Had people tell me, I have too high of cheekbones, or I'm too thin, or I'm too this, or my hair's too short, or if I take everybody's opinion of me to heart and don't go to, I'm a child of God just like everybody else. God made me in God's image. I'm good enough. I'm not perfect. Ain't never going to be perfect. But I am going to learn to give myself heavy doses over long periods of time of positive self-talk. And I am going to refuse to beat myself up emotionally. I'm going to refuse to beat myself up verbally. I will hold myself accountable because that's what a healthy adult does. I will say, I did this and it wasn't my best. It wasn't my best behavior. It wasn't my best character. It wasn't my best effort. And I will forgive myself and I won't beat myself up and I won't hammer myself with a hammer or with food or with alcohol. I will say, I refuse to do that. I will own my behavior. I will accept that whatever consequences are associated with that. I will apologize if I've hurt someone. And then I will go on. Because I could live in a pile of shame. Because I've done some things that have hurt other people. But I can't live there today because if I live there, I'm no good to myself or anybody else. So I've made my amends. I've apologized to God. I've apologized to myself. I've apologized to whomever was affected. And then I have to go forward and say, I'm still good enough. And as long as I continue to put effort into being my best self, not only for others, but for myself. So self-esteem comes from being my best self to myself and reminding myself over and over and over for the next 50 years that I'm okay. And every time I hear myself say something icky and negative, I change it. I asked my daughter this weekend, who keeps saying, and I know that I was not a good influence about this with my own eating issues, but she says, I hate my body. I hate my body. And so I asked her, I understand you're not real happy with your post 3 births figure. Could you please at least add to the end of that sentence? And I am still very grateful for all I'm able to do with it. So when you have a negative, then you don't allow that to be the be all and end all because your brain believes it, right? So always end with, I'm good enough. I'm good enough. I have value. I have worth. And the people who love me because of my character traits. Not what I look like, not what I weigh, not because of who I am. And I love me because I am. So there you go. Self-esteem in a nutshell. Is this easy? No, it's not easy. It is not easy. There's nothing easy about this. It requires consistent effort. It requires awareness of when you are being negative towards yourself, and it requires a butt ton of effort. So it's constant effort, but it can be changed. As I say, every time my health, which includes your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, and your self-esteem. You'll get this, friends. Your self-esteem is your responsibility this day and every day. All right. I appreciate very much you spending your time with me and for you. And we will keep connecting. All right. Make it a great night. Bye.